Hi, today we're going to make something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's my Aunt Filomena's, my Tante Filomena's, sweet basil marinara sauce. My aunt was an old Italian lady when I was a kid, black dress and gray hair in a bun and everything. My God, could she cook. And this is the recipe my family's been making all my life. It's very simple. What makes it so good is what's not in it. It doesn't have wine, it doesn't have sugar, it doesn't have onions, it doesn't have oregano, it doesn't have all the other crap that people put in marinara sauce. You can always add those things later when you're making a specific dish, but this is your best basic simple sauce. And just as it is, it's absolutely wonderful over some ravioli, any kind of pasta you want to name. So all that goes into it, very simply, is sweet basil, nice fresh basil, Italian parsley. Pretty much going to use this whole bulb of garlic. I like a lot of garlic in this. And to which end we're going to be using the big food processor today. Now I've got a couple of different cans of tomatoes here. We're not probably going to be using all of them. This is the vessel we're going to cook in. I'd like to make a bigger batch, but it's a matter of storing it later, freezing it. So it only goes so far. And a nice big can over there. If you do this often, these come in handy. So we've got crushed tomatoes here. They're Cento San Marzano style tomato. They are San Marzano, this is certified. They're the best tomatoes there is to make sauce. You don't need to use these specifically. Pretty much any good brand of tomatoes is going to be good. So I've got, just crushed. Now I've got 3 cans of the peeled. The rest of this is all crushed already. The New York Times recently had a taste-off for tomatoes. And this brand, Muir Glen, which is organic, comes from California, this actually beat out the Cento, which for years was the standard. So they didn't have it at the store yesterday. Muir Glen has a San Marzano style peeled tomato. They're just as good as the Cento, so don't be afraid to use them. I don't know, again, if we're going to be able to use all this, but we might. So the first step is I'm going to take these peeled tomatoes and crush them up the old-fashioned way. Well, first we're going to open the cans and drain off the excess liquid. Otherwise, you're going to get very watery sauce. So also have some salt standing by. I don't normally have to salt this. The canned tomatoes have quite a bit of salt. Your mileage may vary, but you can always add it at the end. So we're going to now get to opening cans of tomatoes, which I won't subject you to watching. Stand by. Okay, now I've got these peeled tomatoes in a colander. I've got a bowl under there to catch the juice, which makes a wonderful morning drink. Nice fresh tomato juice. My hands are clean, and we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm just going to mush these up real good. I don't use all peeled tomatoes in this. This is basically just to give it a little texture. If you get a piece like that, that's a little tough. We're gonna get rid of that. We're not gonna put these in the mixer. Just crush them by hand. Later on, we're gonna make wine with our bare feet. We're gonna stomp grapes. No. Okay, so you wanna do that. Give them a good turn around like this to get as much of the juice out as possible. And just let those continue to drain for a few minutes. And we'll get started on the other things. Roll in, cut. So now I've peeled I have peeled the whole bulb of garlic. If you want a tutorial on how to easily peel garlic, go watch my video about basil pesto. It's a lot easier than you think. So now we're going to chop this very fine. Okay. Perfect. If it wants to cooperate. Take that blade out, and now we're going to take this over the stove and put it in our pot. So now we're back at the food processor. We got some garlic still in there, that's fine. I'm gonna go in with the basil. Try to get this as fresh as you can. If you can buy it in still living plants, which you can in a lot of stores these days, by all means do so. It smells so good. Got the Italian parsley. Not a lot of parsley. Just these stems. Just a handful of parsley. You don't want to have a significant taste from the parsley. You can even do this without the parsley. It's kind of optional. Okay, so again, we're going to, don't want to make it too fine, but it's got it chopped up pretty good. A little bit more. Okay, so you see the size we got there? That's just about perfect. Now we're going to take this off and we're going to mix it in with our tomatoes, peeled tomatoes. Spray it out of there. This thing even lit? Oh yeah, okay. Don't roll yet. Okay, so we're into our peeled tomatoes. We're putting the basil and parsley mixture. Going to use a little crushed tomato to wash out the mixing bowl and get all that goodness. This was the can that didn't want to cooperate. By the way, the food processor, or the can opener rather, that I'd been planning to use, manufactured by Hamilton Beach, did not work with large cans, which is why I bought it. So if you're in the market for a large style can opener, don't buy a Hamilton Beach. Okay, so we've got pretty much everything out of there. So mix this up a little bit. Mix this out. One thing you want to do is make sure after you've cut parsley or cilantro or anything like that, you want to rinse out the vessel very quickly, because once that stuff sticks, it's murder to get off. So do that right away, and your cleanup will be much easier. Okay, mix that in, and now we're gonna go back and check on the garlic. Okay, so the garlic is sauteing nicely here. I'm gonna let it go for a minute. I tasted these tomatoes. They're not very salty, so I am gonna add just a little bit of salt here. Just that much. It'll also help sweat the garlic. Basically, you're just letting the essence of the garlic out into the oil. To put in a little bit more oil. You don't want to make it too greasy. And again, when you serve this, you can always then put a drizzle of EVO on it. Don't try to cook with extra virgin oil, ever. Okay, so that's about ready. You can see bubbling, and now we're going to put in the tomatoes that we've drained. And you can see how much beautiful tomato juice is there. You don't want to have that go in the pot, because then you're going to be having watery watery sauce. Look how beautiful that is. That's going to make delicious juice for my morning breakfast. Okay, so we got those tomatoes in there. Go in with some more crushed. Let's see, how many more have I got? Got enough for all of it. By the way, when you make this, make it the day before you clean the stove, because it is going to make a little bit of a mess. And I'm going pretty high at the top of the pot here. Take our spoon, we're going to mix this all up. Turn on the overhead vent a little bit. And that's it. That's the entire recipe. The prep time is very minimal, but this is going to cook somewhere 2 hours, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to bring it up to a fast simmer, not a boil, so I'm turning the heat up. And while we wait for that, I'll tell you the story of marinara sauce. The name comes from back in the day when the fishing boats would put out at Naples. They'd remain at sea for a couple of days, and work on a fishing boat is hard. So on the stove in the galley would be a pot shackled down with sauce all the time. It's a long cooking sauce, and there would be loaves of bread, and when the men had time, they would pop down in the galley, get a hunk of bread, put it in the sauce, and eat that. And believe me, it's good that way. And they call it marinara sauce because marina in Italian is sailor. So this is sailor sauce. And that's where the name comes from. So you want to cook it once it gets almost to a boil, then we're going to reduce it to a low simmer. As you can see by draining the tomatoes, this is not real watery. It's going to get more water as the tomatoes heat and release it, but it should be about perfect. I'm going to taste it. Nice and sweet. Okay. We're going to wait for this to come up to a simmer, and then we'll come right back. And then we're going to let it sit for a while. So after a few minutes, you can see this starting to bubble from the bottom. You can see it kind of surging. You want to give it a stir. It's going to take a while for this, because don't use too high heat. You don't want to burn the tomatoes to the bottom of the pot. So it's right now getting ready to simmer. You can see it's still surging at the top. That's good. You don't want to let it keep doing that for too long at this heat, otherwise again you're going to get burn the sauce to the pan. Now once this is heated through, yes I am sticking my finger in it, still not there. This is the tedious part. You have to kind of stay with it until it gets to a simmer. I'm actually going to speed this up a little bit by going a little higher heat. When I first moved into this house, I had an electric range, and I could not make this to save my life. You couldn't get the damn electric thing down low enough not to burn the sauce. My favorite improvement I made since then is my gas range, which I absolutely love. I hate cooking on electric stoves. Okay, we'll let this keep going. I'll be standing here stirring for a few minutes. I won't burden you with that. So now you can see this is starting to bubble pretty good. I'm going to reduce this heat to low, and then we're just going to kind of leave this alone for the next 2 hours, stirring it frequently. If it starts to boil too fast or simmer too fast, turn down the heat. You do want it to simmer because that's going to let some of the water come out, but you don't want to boil it. See, even now this heat maybe still be too high. When you see it surging like that from the bottom, the heat's too high, so we're going to turn it way down until that calms down a little bit. There you go. So that should be perfect. At least 2 hours, 3 if you can manage it. This is a big pot of sauce, as you can see. So I will freeze a lot of this. Best way by me is in small plastic bags and freeze it flat. So then when you want to defrost it, you only have to put it in some hot water. or you can just put it in storage containers, whatever you're using, Tupperware. I would have made even a bigger batch of this because if you're going to make it, you may as well make a lot. But I didn't have a large enough or larger pot to make it in. So we're just going to leave that alone for a while and we will come back. Remember, stir this frequently, at least every 15-20 minutes for 2 to 3 hours. So this has been going for about half an hour now. See, this is how you want to see it bubbling. That's going to release some of the water in the tomatoes so you don't get a watery sauce. You can already see this is kind of thin up here. So remember, every 15 to 20 minutes, give it a good stir to the bottom and let it keep going. I want to mention one other thing. I've spoken about this wine before. It's called In Vitro. I get this at Total Wine & More, where I get pretty much all my wine and liquors. If you're lucky enough to have one near you, I can't recommend them highly enough. I've been going there for many years. This is what is called a Super Tuscan, and it's really, really great. It goes with just about everything. I actually buy this by the case now. This is my go-to wine, and I do recommend it very highly. In Vitro Toscana, it says Indicazione Geografica Tipica. That means it is certified to be from the region. It's a very high quality wine at a very medium price. It's $16.95 a bottle. And if you buy it by the case, it's 10% off. So I like it. The sauce is really cooked quite quickly because I did such a good job of draining the tomatoes. So this has only been on for like an hour and 15 minutes, but this is done. As you can see, there's no water on the top, and that's a really good sign. So you want to get this kind of consistency. If you want it a little thicker when you actually go to use it, you can always cook it down a little bit, but there's really nothing to cook down. This is just about perfect. So sometimes it takes longer. It depends on how much water you get in the tomatoes, but I'm calling this done. I'm going to turn the heat off, and that's it. That is my sweet basil marinara. So there you have it. Sweet basil marinara. This is a family recipe. It is absolutely, let me taste it again. This is phenomenal. I'm going to brag and say this is the best sauce you'll ever eat in your life. And as I said, it's very versatile as a base. You can use it for any of 100 different red sauce type meals, but it's beautiful just with some pasta. I'm going to plate this up a little bit with some nice cheese ravioli and enjoy that for my dinner with a glass of wine. A little early for the chef to be drinking, but not too early. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I ask you to please hit that thumbs up button to the bottom right of the screen, like the video, subscribe, hit the red button. If you also click the bell next to it, you will get an email whenever there's a new recipe that goes up. And please do share this with your friends on your other social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, if you enjoy the recipe. It helps me a lot. So for now, I'm going to get ready to cook some ravioli, and then I'm going to plate up. And I will say goodbye until next time. Thanks for watching. So I cooked some lovely spinach and ricotta cheese ravioli with this wonderful sauce on it. A little sprinkle of, this is Pecorino Romano cheese, which I happen to prefer. Just some very simply steamed asparagus to go with it with some salt. And this sauce is great with everything. It's a great basis. Make it, taste it, and you will fall in love with it. Remember to please like this video, give it that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, comment on the video, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. We'll see you soon. Bye. And I just want to show you how I put this sauce up for later use. It's quite a messy little operation, but take it, roll them so that the air comes out, get the seal started. And this one got a little messy. Use a ladle to fill these. You want to try to clean the seal a little bit and get that excess sauce out of there. Keep it rolled over. You want to get as much air out as possible, and then you want to keep the bags flat like that and freeze them that way. This one has a lot of sauce on it. Like I said, this is a slightly messy operation, but it's worth it in the end. Okay. Two more here. The seal's pretty clean, which is good. So I'm gonna push this down here, get all that air out. Make sure you get a good seal. I would do my seal impression right now, but it's not very funny. Okay. That's all ready. And just one more. The big pot of sauce that I made, I've already given some of that away, so this is what's left over from that and my having it for dinner 2 nights. So take a big pot of sauce, freeze it like this. You can freeze a lot more. This is good in the freezer a year and a half even. The acidity in the tomatoes, and there's not a lot of salt in it, so it's going to freeze pretty quickly. These are going to go in the freezer flat like that, and we're done. Now all I have to do is clean up. So